All right, we're going into the fourth topic, ladies and gentlemen.
Fourth quarter.
If you
Here we go.
have topics for the Kind of Funny Gamescast, tweet them at me at Tim Gettys. Or every week I'll just ask you and you'll tell us stuff and it's gonna be a good time. Just like at Brian_Nove asked, why does Nintendo hate Metroid?
It's a good question. I think that people often lose sight of something that is important when you're making a game. So what we talk about with Zelda too, although Zelda is not a great example of this. Metroid doesn't sell that well, and like that, and that's we lose sight of that as hardcore engaged gamers and Nintendo fans. I fucking love Metroid, but Metroid Prime wasn't like this blockbuster hit at all. So, and they made 3 of them.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like I think they actually might have even started selling worse. So they don't make Metroid games because they look at their books and they're like, well, we can have Retro do that, or we can have Retro make Donkey
Kong Country,
and
again.
those games sell better. I mean, it's. I've made the same kind of criticism. I'm like, why is Retro being made to make these fucking games when they can make?
They're great games.
I played a little bit of Tropical Freeze at when we were still at IGN, maybe for like a half an hour. I wasn't feeling it. It felt a little sluggish, a little heavy.
Tropical Freeze is awesome. It's very, very good.
It seems like a waste of their talent, but it doesn't.
I'll agree with that.
You can't only judge it based on that, though. It's the same thing we talk about with Naughty Dog, where everyone's like, well, why don't they make Jak and Daxter? It's like, first of all, why the fuck would you want them to make Jak and Daxter? Second of all,
exactly. Why would you want to make Jak and Daxter when they should be making Crash Bandicoot?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, they don't own that, of course, but they don't make Jak anymore because Jak was a diminishing return, and there has to be business realities when you're making a game. When you're spending tens of millions of dollars, if not $50 or $100 million on making some of these games. Not that Metroid would cost that much. It's just that when you look at Metroid's sales figures, they're just not that impressive. That series doesn't sell that well. I know that that's like a surprise to people because I love those games. I love the games on GBA and DS. I mean, they were great, and obviously the NES and SNES classics and the Metroid Prime games. It's just you have to make. It's the same reason why they don't make F-Zero. You know, like who's buying
Star
it?
Fox.
Well, they're going to make Star Fox.
So wait, that's a surprise to me. Like, why does Metroid not sell?
Well, because it's kind of like it's just
Like
obscure.
hardcore niche, or
It's
just-
not. I mean, it's not Halo. You know, it looks like it kind of is, but it's not, and it doesn't have the multiplayer aspects, and it doesn't have all these other things. So it's like you don't get that the 13-year-olds talking about Metroid the way that you get them talking about Halo or Call of Duty or any of that type of stuff.
Makes sense.
So, and it's like, yeah, all of us are like, oh, we love Metroid. Why aren't they making Metroid? But it's like then people aren't playing it. Like we're playing it.
When was the last good
many of us.
Metroid? Was it Metroid Prime 3?
3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking. I was just on my phone because I'm looking. It says so there are 12 Metroid games, and the Metroid series through 2012 has sold 17 million copies. That's nothing. They can make a Mario Galaxy game and sell half that much. So it's a matter of like, 12, 17 divided by 12. That's going to be about 1.4 million copies a game. It's just not really a return.
Especially when all of them are just critically loved. Like I think you said there was 7 of them.
No, there's 12.
12.
Yeah.
Holy shit, 12. All right, so there was Metroid 1, which is great.
Games. Here it is.
Metroid 2, which is pretty damn good.
So yeah, it's Metroid on NES, which is a great game. Metroid 2 on Game Boy, which is a great Game Boy game. Although,
but yeah, it just doesn't
it's
stand
got
up
the
against
same
other
problem,
stuff.
yeah.
Super Metroid, amazing.
Right, so that's 3. Metroid Fusion was the next one. That's 4, and then Prime came out the same year, so that's 5.
Both of those amazing.
Then Zero Mission, which is just a remake
Amazing.
of the first one. And then Prime 2 Echoes, which is a great game.
Very
And
good.
then Pinball, which no one gave a shit
Doesn't
about.
count.
Metroid
Hunters.
Yeah, Hunters came out in 2006. Then Corruption came out in 2007.
Good.
Then the Trilogy came to Wii.
Doesn't count.
And then Other M, which is the
And
last
then
Metroid.
Other M. So Other M
So I
is
think
the,
that is 12. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
lot.
That's 12. If you don't count the Trilogy as 11.
yeah. Other M is the only one that's like not good.
I never played Other M. Ninja Theory, or not Ninja Theory, Team Ninja did that.
Yeah.
game, which is totally weird.
Yeah.
I saw the baby Metroid, but it didn't know me. So she talked the entire time. Like winner's fucking bone.
Yeah, I love Metroid. I hope they get some shit fixed.
I think
that I was so hyped for Metroid Other M too. Like
Yeah, me
everything about that looked cool. The trailer was awesome, like an action game, like all that stuff. I was like first person, third person, hell yeah. And then it was just like all the story elements really, and just the fact that it was on Wii, so the controller, like you had to like hold it this way and then this way and do all that stuff. I think that game would have been way better if it had a better story direction and like didn't ruin Samus's characters, and if it was on an actual controller. What the hell is Nick?
It's
watching
a reindeer.
All right.
I mean, the solution, right, is to put out a throwback like Mega Man, right? Do a Mega Man 9 or 10. Do a 16-bit Metroid whatever.
Dread.
Yeah.
Finally bring it out.
Yeah, I mean, it would be cool to give a company that would fucking murder for that game, like Way Forward or Yacht Club, could do a lot of good by taking Metroid. There could be another thing too, which is maybe that Retro just doesn't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Well, I almost don't want Retro to do it. Like they did that 3 times, 3.5 times. So it's like, no.
Stop.
All right. At Donald Jones says, if there were no exclusives, which home console would you buy and why? So in a world with no exclusives. So that really then comes down to controller, power of the console,
Online.
user interface, and then online.
I am completely torn. But, yeah.
Why? Like what tears you?
Xbox I would go for I think the pros for that are they're online. And then if we're talking about PlayStation, the UI is just very responsive, which I like. And then if we're looking at controllers, I like the PlayStation 4 controller for stories and stuff. I can't do it for FPS. Like FPS games, I just can't do the analog sticks like that. They have to be off positioned.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, I know it's just very back and forth. I know it's a tough one.
PS4 is more powerful, I think. I don't think it, which is weird because I feel like it's so nominal. Like,
yeah.
I feel like people really get caught up on this shit, and I don't really care. I would go with PlayStation 4 just because that's where I've been, and that's kind of like where I But if there's no exclusives, I mean, then there's no. It's a weird question because if there's no exclusives, then there's no consoles because there's no reason to even have multiple consoles.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
That's a good point.
You know, like
I can't have a PC. I need to have one of the consoles.
Yeah.
I mean, then it comes down to like, what do I mean?
I mean, for me, it's PlayStation just because I prefer the controller, and for all the games I play.
I don't. The controllers never really get me hung up. Either way,
I do.
Like,
man.
I'll admit, like, last generation, I think the DualShock was at a disadvantage with those dumb triggers that slope down. And
See, I personally
slip
still
off
prefer the DualShock just because of the D-pad.
That's true. The D-pad is
To
awesome.
me, the D-pad's super important for the games that I play. I don't give a fuck about the triggers.
Games
I don't play first-person
I never
shooters.
touch D-pad. It's always just some extra stuff.
Fredo's not about touching that D.
I think ultimately I'd go with Xbox just because it's controller and online. I think,
But I see the thing about it as I think I'd be swayed to go Xbox if there was no exclusives and there was no, just because then it comes down to apps and shit, right? And they have the Twitch app, and they had HBO Go long before it, and they had YouTube long before it, and it's like, if I want more out of my device than just games, which will have every game that's everywhere else. But again, this question's weird because it is a weird question.
It kind of aligns with the question that I'm asked all the time. People in my Twitch chat, they're just like, what console should I get this for? My answer is, or just like, what console should I get? And I'm just like, well, my answer to that is just like, they're like, oh, Destiny, PS4, Xbox One, like, which one should I get it for? My answer to that is just,
Where are your friends?
Where are your friends at? Go there. Because, I mean, sure, you could do single player, but I feel like a lot of your experiences onwards are really based around your friends, right? So, yeah. Wherever all your friends at.
Where are your friends at?
Where your friends at? All right. At Taylor Owen says, fears about Fallout 4? What do you think about multiplayer?
No!
I think that Bethesda is going to do us really proud. I really feel good about this game. We don't know anything about it. We don't even know if it's real. It's clearly real. It's clearly going to be real at E3, and it will come out this year. The
hashtag Colin might be right.
Colin might be right. Probably is wrong. Remember, I've been saying about The Last Guardian for 6 years. I think that they know that they can't fuck with this too much. I think that they realize that. I hope that they realize that, and I think they do. I think there'll be some sort of online component. I don't think that it's going to be like this overarching, like, really important thing. I think it'll be like Borderlands. I think that's a really good parallel to it. You can play the entire game by yourself, and you will not know any difference. But if you want to play with a friend, maybe you can do that too. The only problem is that the game's going to be way more story-driven than Borderlands, you assume. And so how they're going to work that out and all that kind of stuff remains to be seen, especially with choices. For instance, if like you play with a different player and you made different choices in the story and then come to each other, is like that going to affect it? Can you not play with each other? It's complicated. That's why I think that the online interactivity in the game cannot be too deep. Like, it's just not going to work unless Fallout 4 is a completely different game than the Elder Scrolls and then Fallout 3.
Mm-hmm.
I have zero concerns about it. Todd Howard's a fucking G. Like, he's been doing this for a long time. He makes great fucking games. He's got a great team. Bethesda Game Studios does what they do. Everyone looks at Bethesda as a studio or as a publisher, but their internal studio is insanely good. They're a self-titled studio, as it were, and I think you should have every faith that this is going to be a great game.
I believe in that world. I hope in that world. I would not want MMO Fallout. I would not want multiplayer Fallout. For the reasons Fallout's always such a personal story. What your experience is, what you went out and found, what the story is, what do I kill these ghouls? Oh my god, they don't seem like that bad. Like when you talk, like the reason multiplayer works in Borderlands so well, right, is the fact that the story's just goofy. Run around and shoot shit, and then here's a fart joke. And you're like, all right, great, this is fun. Oh, what did he say? I don't know. We go to that thing and do that. Great, see, you know what I mean? Like Fallout isn't that game. Fallout has this like undertone of seriousness, and I want to keep that.
Are you a Fallout guy?
I'm gonna confess a crime. I've never touched Fallout.
Oh man, that should definitely be one of his streams.
You played Skyrim though.
I did. I played a shit ton of Skyrim.
Same thing. It's just in post-apocalyptic with guns instead of in medieval times with swords.
But I've been going back. I did The Last of Us this weekend. I'm gonna go back and do Uncharted, and Fallout's definitely on that list. I fucking love that game. Yeah.
Did you cry?
MP was cool too.
Yeah, multiplayer is awesome.
I enjoyed multiplayer.
Excellent.
At Mike Gronick asks, what are the biggest hard-hitting gaming questions that we've always been wanting answers for? Half-Life 3's release date.
Yeah.
Why does Nintendo keep fucking up?
The Last Guardian.
Last Guardian,
Well, just what happened.
In general.
Yeah, I mean, I think Half-Life 3 is probably the biggest mystery. And I think Half-Life 3 will happen. I think it's in development. But yeah, I don't know. I think you have to kind of answer those kind of questions more on the fly. Like, I don't really know. Like, I think that answer can be different next week.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, Half-Life's a good one.
At Taylor Shelf asks, what are game series you hate that everyone else loves?
Game series you hate. Assassin's Creed is a great example of that for me.
I agree with that one.
I fucking hate that series. I can't stand it anymore. Like, that's like how, like, it's I don't, because it's one of the, and I don't know if Alfredo agrees, it's really one of those things where I don't get how it got so big. I really don't. I'm like, I look at the game, I play the game, and I'm like, why? It's fine, I guess, but it's not like this amazing, like, fucking mind-bending, mind-altering experience. Just not, you know? And, like, that was always so confusing to me, is like, how, and I appreciate and respect that people like that game a lot more than I do, but man, I look at that series just being annualized every year, and I'm like, who is buying this?
The story never really resonated with me. The combat felt, especially with the first, like, kind of 2 games, repetitive and clunky.
Sure.
And
I mean, 2 is what changed it and what set it onto this course, and where I fell in love with it, even though I don't like play them all that often anymore. But just in the fact that it was like, and it was an open world in quotes where I could go and do what I want and complete everything, and it was one of those games that had all the video game hooks that worked for you, and it for me overcame the fact that I had no idea what the fuck was happening in the story anymore and what was going on with these pieces of Eden and yada 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 and fucking aliens and whatever the hell else they're doing, right? I just wanted to run around and buy every outfit and put on this thing and get down every painting and find every feather and do it, you know what I mean? Like when you get lost in that, when the game design has so many great elements to it, like you overlook the fact that combat was repetitive, but I mean, I feel like that can be said by this one was in a very specific way repetitive, right? I'm just like wait for the parry out of it, right?
Like 4 guys that each take their turns, like slashing at you and your parry. Yeah.
But even that, like, I mean, the original Batman games were like that in a way, right? Like you had to wait for your option to do it, and then they slowly put in more attacks and more things to counter and da. But like Arkham Asylum is similar in the way of like you can get through button mashing the entire time, but if you want the combos racked up and you want to be reversing at the right time and this, that, and the other, there's more to it. I'm not saying that it's exactly one and the same, but I think it's not that far off. You know what I mean? Now there's a bigger gap, I think, or whatever. But
yeah,
I think for me, and this is a really strong word because I don't want to say I hate it. I just don't understand why people love it so much and just hasn't hooked me. Is Animal Crossing?
Oh,
people fucking love that shit.
Yeah,
like people love that game on a level that I'm like, wow, you are addicted to this.
Yeah, I don't pretend to get it either.
I just don't get it.
I played it on GameCube and I was just like, it was fine. I was like, and that was a different time when you had to like exchange. I go on GameFAQs and like exchange like these long numbers and stuff like that. It's like Jesus fucking Christ. Right. But yeah, I never got it either, to be honest.
I've gotten it to varying degrees. Now, like with the DS one, I got in it late, so I did my best, but I couldn't keep up with like Goldfarb, who had like everything and was insane about trading stuff. But they're fun for a while until I feel it's the same thing as a lot of games. Where you look back 10 hours, 20 hours, whatever later, and you're just like, what am I doing? Like, why do I give a shit about this cherry tree? Why am I picking weeds? What am I, trying to find all these seashells and dinosaur fossils? And the fact that
this game sounds weird as shit.
And it's the same game, too. Like, there is no huge change. There's no big change from it or anything else. Like, that's always one of the problems with it. Now, in the similar vein of I don't hate it, but I don't get it, Half-Life. I've tried, man. I've tried playing both Half-Lives, and I just cannot do it. Like, I just find them boring. I find them mechanically clunky, and I don't enjoy them. And everybody's like, the story and the end scene. I was like, well, when it's a slog to get to that point, I just can't be a part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there are others too. I mean, to varying degrees. Like Call of Duty is actually one of those games I think about, not in the sense that it's bad, because it's excellent, but why there hasn't been a bigger backlash against the forced annualization of that series, when people should be like more interested in settling into a game for a couple of years or a few years and really learning it. Seems like there's a lot of churn in those games, and I'm always wondering, like, what is it about it that makes everyone want to jump to the next Call of Duty? And I think it's because they think everyone else wants to and needs to jump to the next Call of Duty. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Call of Duty's mechanics are unrivaled, I think, in shooting. But I think about it in that sense too. And another example is God of War. I've been a long outspoken proponent of just saying, like, I don't really get it. You know, excellent games when you play them. Don't understand like why anyone cares about Kratos. Don't understand why anyone cares about that world and very one dimensional kind of storytelling.
Sure.
It's just not for me. But
yeah,
but
you and
this
I have
thing-
gone around about that enough times. I think it just comes down to that's an action movie, right? I mean, it's just like that's the whole thing. Is like it's a 8-hour, 7-hour action movie, right? Where it's like in a 2-hour stint of Die Hard or whatever, maybe a bad reference, but you know, where you have this like action hero who really only has one emotion. It's not that big of a deal, right? You want to see The Rock fuck shit up or whatever, but like. Yeah, with Kratos nonstop yelling Calliope every 5 seconds. What's going on?
Yeah, but I don't want to bring that. I just bring those examples up. Like Assassin's Creed really is the answer for me to that question.
Yep.
But yeah, I think about Call of Duty and God of War and other series that I don't quite let's categorize those as I don't quite understand them.
Don't get them.
Mm-hmm.
But not everything's for me to be to be understood by me.
Out there, Nick Scarpina says he agrees with me about Half-Life.
There's a lot going on right now, guys.
Yeah, Nintendo's going.
Nintendo
right
Direct's going on. There's a lot of exciting news.
Yeah, I mean,
we're going to get into that at a later time. Colin and Greg live. You should go check it
Tomorrow.
out. We're probably going to do some stuff. It's going to be fun. I will just say I was totally fucking right about some shit, so that's great. Ladies and
You
gentlemen.
called the Yarn Amiibos, all right.
Oh, Yarn Amiibos. That was it.
Your
No.
Amiibos.
All right. This has been episode 14. The last ever episode 14 of the
Maybe.
Kind of Funny Games
Possibly.
cast. Guaranteed. Absolutely guaranteed. Until next time. I love you.